The F1 season has begun and the new era of cars have finally hit the track. But with everything being so new, you can expect a few misfires as teams are still trying to find their footing. And the team that had the biggest misfire of the season opener would be Red Bull, who for much of the race were well positioned behind Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, battling for the top positions. But with numerous problems on both of their drivers' cars getting worse as each lap passed, how Red Bull's night ended was a complete shocker to every F1 fan out there. So what exactly did happen, and are Red Bull more vulnerable than they think? Coming into the Bahrain GP, it was a toss-up between Verstappen and Leclerc as to who would be the favourite to win the race, with the two exchanging the fastest lap in pre-season testing on the same track. And the two were also inseparable in qualifying, with only 0.1 seconds between them, with Leclerc coming out on top. They would have an epic back and forth battle in the first half of the race, with impressive moments happening between laps 17 and 19, with the two exchanging intense overtaking through turns 1 through 4. But with overtaking comes some hard late braking that would inevitably heat up the braking system of Max Verstappen. After a succession of hard battling between Verstappen and Leclerc, Verstappen was told by his team to ease up because his brakes were dangerously hot after all the action. Verstappen would go on to say in an interview, "We had good top speed all race, but after that I had that steering issue, the brake issues as well, they were overheating as well if I wanted to attack. After the fight with Charles, I had to let him go." With Red Bull consciously choosing to play the long game, Leclerc would extend his lead but would have it all nullified by a safety car because an AlphaTauri car, which was also powered by Red Bull's powertrains unit, had caught fire, forcing its driver Pierre Gasly to retire from the race. As everyone was bunched up behind Leclerc in the safety car, Verstappen could be heard through the team radio that he was experiencing some steering issues that cost him a good restart after the safety car had gone off. Max would say in an interview, "It wasn't even the steering just got heavy, it was almost impossible to steer, and the faster I was going, it felt like there was going to be a delay, so every time I was turning right, it took a while before something was happening. That's why my restart was really bad, because I wanted to go on full throttle, but I couldn't open my wheel because it was stuck." This bad restart would give ground to the driver behind him, Carlos Sainz, who would keep it close with Verstappen for a half a lap, who simultaneously could be heard asking his team on the radio what's happening to his battery. The surprising part in the discussions was his engineer replying that they do not see any issue with the car, and basically told Max to hold on for dear life until the end of the race. And after just a few more meters, Max's car would shut off completely, opening the door for Carlos Sainz and the rest of the field, and resulting in a DNF for the current F1 champion. Max would go on to say in an interview after the race, "It was very hard out there, a lot of different issues we had to deal with. This is of course not what you want to happen in the first race weekend. The pace wasn't amazing, I think the balance wasn't as good as on Friday for whatever reason, which we had to understand of course, just a lot of things to analyse. Of course, you can always say that problems can happen and you might have to retire the car, but I think at this level, after having so much information on the engines and stuff, it shouldn't really happen." Before we go into the compounding nightmare that is Red Bull's season opener, why don't you like the video and subscribe if you were shocked by Sunday's race? Adding to Red Bull's nightmares, Sergio Perez, on the very last lap of the race, would be heard talking to his engineer, stating that he too was losing power. At this time, Perez was in third, but that's not how things would end, as Perez's car would shut off completely at turn 1 of the final lap, giving way to a very unexpected podium finish to Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, and losing their chance of earning Red Bull any points. Charles Leclerc would inevitably cross the finish line first with Sainz following a close second, and Hamilton in third. This win would end Ferrari's 45-race winless streak. When asked about how the breaking the team's losing record felt, Leclerc would have this to say, "A victory is always very, very special, and I definitely feel much more grown up compared to my victories as a driver in 2019. Here today, everything felt a bit more under control and it felt nice. Obviously there were some very tense moments on track with Max after the first stop, with the safety car restart after that, but everything was managed well and I could bring the victory home." Many would say that Ferrari had the perfect race, finishing with 1-2, but that opinion isn't held by Carlos Sainz. Sainz, who was stuck behind Verstappen for much of the race, believes that he has his homework cut out for him, seeing that he lacks pace compared to Leclerc. He would go on to say after the race, "It's a confirmation that this weekend hasn't been easy for me at all. It shows that I still have to understand this car. I need to set it up a bit more for my liking. I have some homework to do over these few days. The positive is that on probably my toughest weekend at Ferrari, I still finished second. So, time to get my head down and fight for first." George Russell would tell the media afterwards that Toto had managed their expectations for the race and would call the season an opener, extra test run for the team who was still working out the kinks on their W13. Toto would also go on to say, I think this year, we are punching above our weight class. With the Red Bulls DNFing, 3rd and 4th is actually a fantastic result. And as for Lewis Hamilton, he would admit that he was also coming into the race with managed expectations and was only looking to reduce the damage that they would take in the chase for the Constructors' Championship. Hamilton would go on to say in an interview after the race, "Oh, for sure, we had not expected to get a podium. I woke up this morning hoping, super hoping that we would have a chance to fight, that we would have a car that's better than we think, but we did struggle in the race." And as for the rest of the field, the most wonderful surprise of them all was perhaps Kevin Magnussen of the Haas team finishing 5th after returning to F1 on very short notice. Magnussen would go on to say, "That was a lot of fun, I enjoyed it a lot. It's good to be back in this position. I've just got to say a massive well done to the team. I keep saying this all weekend that I just can't believe this opportunity that I've got here. 5th position, that's crazy." And on the flip side of that, the team that surprisingly fell off in the midfield was McLaren, who had finished the previous season 4th in the Constructors' Championship, having both of their drivers at the bottom of the field. The team would opt to use mediums for most of the race while the rest of the field chose softs, and this wouldn't pay off in the end. Both Norris and Ricciardo believe that McLaren are a long way from being there where they want to be, but still believe that it's long enough season to build themselves back up. So there you have it. Red Bull opened the season with drama right away, but do you think they have more problems with their car than they like to admit? And do you think Ferrari will be able to hold this type of dominance throughout the entire season? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to DRS Zone.